All right, what's up? It's Coach Ali here. This is a simple guide on how to train for muscle growth, how to set up your training routine. We'll cover any common questions that you might have, and as well as set up the foundation for your training routine as a beginner getting into the gym. Okay, the first question that comes up is how many sets should I do per body part per week? So just to cover all the body parts, main body parts that kind of we care about when we're coming into the gym and want to build an aesthetic appearance. First one's going to be your chest right here. Then it's going to be your shoulders. And then it's going to be your traps, which are the meaty part, upper part of your back right here. And then there's your lats, which are kind of the wings. Those are things that give you a big V taper, that strong width. And the traps are the things that create thickness in your back. You obviously got your biceps right here. You got your triceps right here. You got your abs right here. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You got your quads in the front of the body right here, your quadriceps. When you turn around, you got your glutes right here. These are your butt muscles. You got your hamstrings down here. And then you got your calves all the way down here. If you train calves, you're doing a great job because I do not train them personally. And then the question pops up, okay, how many sets per body part per week? The science says that 10 to 20 is optimal, but the only reason you should ever chase optimal is if you're a bodybuilder getting ready for bodybuilder prep. Otherwise, it becomes way too unsustainable for the majority of people. So my recommendation out of training a bunch of clients, training myself these past 4 years and making 4 years worth of mistakes is to only start off with about 8 to 12 sets per body part per week as a beginner. This is going to look like 4 sets of bench press on Monday and then 4 sets of bench press on Thursday, or doing another chest exercise, but that would cover your 8 sets per body part per week. Okay, and then the next question comes up, how many reps should I do per set? You might have seen this on social media and they're like, oh, do the progression where you do 12 reps, then 10 reps, then 8 reps, then 6 reps. For me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I prefer rep ranges, and this simplifies a whole lot of things because you don't have to choose the exact weight that's going to get you this exact amount of repetitions. So anything between 5 to 30 reps in a set works and can build muscle effectively. A lot of people think, oh, I have to lift heavy in order to build muscle. You don't. You can lift a lighter weight all the way up to 30 repetitions per set as long as you're taking care of all the other factors, and it's going to build muscle. However, so that's theoretical, right? Theoretically, that works. But practically, when it comes to your sets, you don't want to do high rep sets because if you do 30 reps of squats, you're not going to train to failure because your quads are at failure. You're going to be at failure and you're going to stop the set because you're running out of breath. You're mentally fatigued. Your spine is tired from lifting all that weight. So when it comes into a practical perspective, these are the 3 main rep ranges you want to use: the 5 to 10 rep range, the 8 to 12 rep range, and the 12 to 20 rep range. The 5 to 10, use that for your compound lifts, like a bench and squat and a deadlift. That's the rep range you want to use for those. The 8 to 12 rep range is going to be for like a hack squat, a leg press, an incline dumbbell press, a chest supported T-bar row, a row in general, any rowing movement, a pull up, a pull down. This is the rep range you want to use for those types of movements. And then the 12 to 20 rep range, say for your isolations, the ones that are only working one body part at a time, like a bicep curl, a tricep extension, a lateral raise. And those are good general recommendations. Everyone has a little bit of individual nuance, but hopefully that simplifies it down. And those are the rep ranges that you can use. Okay, the next question that you're going to have in the gym is how hard should I be training? Everyone says train hard. Some people say you don't have to train hard. What intensity level should I be performing at in order to build muscle? So what's true is that failure training is very effective. If you compare one set of bicep curls and I go till absolute failure and I come all the way down, I'm struggling and I try to get myself back up, but I can't, that means I trained to absolute failure, absolute technical failure. I couldn't do another set. I couldn't do another repetition. What good form? That set right there will be more effective than another set where I stop maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 reps away from failure. However, the issue with failure training is that it taxes your nervous system and it also taxes your entire body. For example, if you show up to a gym and the first set you do is to all out failure, then the next set you do is going to be impacted by that failure training. And then not only is that next set affected, that next exercises for the day are affected. And then not only are those exercises affected, then your next workout for the next day is affected. So the best general recommendation to train for the most muscle growth, but also save yourself a little bit of room so you can do an increased amount of volume with your training, is to train 1 or 2 reps in reserve. And all that means is 1 or 2 reps away from failure. So if I'm doing bicep curls and I'm really going out and I think I'm 1 or 2 reps away from failure, that's where I'm going to stop the set. And that's going to be a good general recommendation for pretty much every single set that you're doing. For isolation movements like a bicep curl, okay, you take 1 or 2 sets to failure, it's not a big deal. But for compound movements like a squat, a bench, a deadlift, ideally you don't want to take those to failure at all because they're going to be very taxing on your body. For complete beginners, if it's your first 6 months in the gym, then you're going to make amazing progress almost no matter what you do. You still want to train hard, you still want to train with good form, but if you're training 3 or 4 reps away from failure, that's going to be a much better recommendation for you, because for you, the main focus is to stay consistent and to train with good form. And as soon as you get closer to failure training, you're going to see that your form is going to give out. So for beginners, your first 6 months, train 3 or 4 reps away from failure. For everybody else, train 1 or 2 reps away from failure, sometimes going to failure if you have a specific reason. All right, next question you're going to have is, how do you progressively overload? So you probably heard of this before, progressive overload. What does progressive overload mean? Progressive overload just means to keep challenging your muscles as you continue throughout your training routine. So if I do bicep curls, and I lift them for and I lift 45 pounds for 12 reps, and I do that today, and I do that the next day, and I come back the next week, and I keep doing that, eventually the bicep is going to be like, hey, you're not challenging me anymore, so I have no reason to grow. So that means we have to keep challenging the muscle. And in order to do that, there's a lot of ways, but the most simplest way is just to increase the amount of weight that you're using. So you go from 45 pounds to 50 pounds, from 50 to 55, and you gradually increase it. You don't just jump from 35 pounds to 65 pounds, because that's not going to make a whole lot of sense. So now you're going to ask, okay, when do I progressively overload? When do I know I'm ready? So say, for example, you have 3 sets of bicep curls and you're using the 8 to 12 rep range. That first set, you're doing 45 pounds, and say you could only do 11 reps, right? And you do your other sets, 11 reps, 10 reps, right? But your rep range that you're using is 8 to 12 reps. So that means your goal is to get this first set to the end of your rep range, which in this case is 12 repetitions. So say you show up the next week and you ate your protein and you were consistent and you recovered well and you're able to push till 12 reps. That means now is the time to progressively overload. So next week when you come into the gym, that means we have to up this weight. We have to go from 45 pounds to 50 pounds or 55 pounds. What you're going to notice is that you can only do 55 pounds for about 8 or 9 reps. Then your goal is to, again, do the same thing. Take that first set of 55 pounds to 12 reps, or whatever the end of your rep range is. And that is the basic concept of progressive overload. Okay, next question you're going to ask is, how many days per week should I be in the gym? I've heard that I have to go 6 days per week. Some people say 5 days per week. Some people say, hey, you only got to go 1 day per week to the gym and you can train out with all out intensity, and that's the best way to train. From my recommendation, out of all the clients I've trained and my own experience, 5 to 6 is generally overkill. 1 or 2 days is not enough, and 3 to 4 days seems to be the perfect spot. Three is good. If you're really serious, we want to go to 4, and that's going to be an hour, maybe 75 minutes in the gym each day that you go. And that's pretty much all you need. If we think about it, if you've heard the law of diminishing returns, you make progress up until a point, and then after that, it kind of stalls, and then after that, it kind of goes the other way, right? 3 to 4 days is that sweet spot where you get into the optimal range. Yeah, 5 to 6 days might be a little bit better, but that's going to be a whole lot more time in the gym. There's going to be diminishing returns. You're not having a lot of positive effects there. So for people who are not bodybuilders or going into bodybuilder prep, you can make a whole ton of progress with 3 to 4 days in the gym, especially if you're in the beginner phase where you're just in the first 2 to 3 years of consistent weightlifting. Okay, last question you're gonna have is how to train with good form. So unfortunately, I'm only gonna show you with bicep curls, but the most basic thing is to not use momentum, whether it's a lat pull down or a squat or a bicep curl. So you'll see people kind of bouncing it back and forth. That's an obvious no-no. Another subtle no-no is they're gonna have bad posture, or they're going to throw in a little bit of momentum from other body parts. So their back will be slightly bent over and they'll be doing a bicep curl like this. And that's going to limit your range of motion. Another form mistake is not slowing the eccentric portion of the lift. So the eccentric is on the way down or after you've already lifted the weight. So imagine I lift the weight, that's the concentric, and then the eccentric is when I let it back down. And I want to make sure this is controlled and slow. Whether you're on a leg press or a bench or a hack squat, whatever machine it is, you want to control the eccentric. So bring it on up, and then slow and control back down. That's really going to stretch those muscle fibers apart, and that's so beneficial for muscle growth, possibly more beneficial than this right here. The science is kind of inconclusive on it, but some studies show that this eccentric part is very important. So you want to make sure you're not skipping out on that. Every movement that you do is a full body movement. So always shoulder blades back, chest held high, engage your core like somebody's about to punch you, squeeze those glutes together, stand with great posture, neck in line with your spine, and then go ahead and do the movement. And what you'll notice is that you're able to feel it in your bicep way more. Lifting with terrible form is popular because you can lift more weight when you have bad form and you're using momentum. But if you truly want to build your biceps and have the most muscular physique in the littlest time spent as possible, then you need to make sure you're lifting with good form. If you want to impress basically nobody in the gym, but you think you're impressing people in the gym, then you can lift with terrible form and lift as much weight as you want to. All right, so hopefully that covers the basics on what you need to do in the gym to train for max muscle growth as a complete beginner. If you want to get into the best shape of your life this year and you're confused with a little bit of this information, or you have more questions on how to build muscle, how to lose fat, how to set up your training routine, and how to set up your nutrition plan, then let's go ahead and schedule that free consultation. The link is in my Instagram bio, and go ahead and click that, and we'll set up a game plan on how to get to your goals as efficiently as possible.